Indian Prime Minister Narendra Modi was today accorded a grand ceremonial welcome at the historic Independence Square in the heart of Sri Lankan capital. This was the first instance of any foreign leader receiving such an honour at this location. The square is usually reserved for Sri Lanka's national celebrations and holds great symbolic importance in reflecting the island nation's post-colonial identity. The Prime Minister was received at the square by President Anura Kumara Dissanayake of Sri Lanka. Modi and Dissanayake held talks to strengthen bilateral ties between the two countries. During key talks with President Anura Kumara Dissanayake, the two leaders sealed 7 major agreements. India and Sri Lanka signed several key agreements, including a Defence Cooperation Pact, an Energy Collaboration Pact focused on developing Trincomalee as an energy hub, a framework to support India's grant assistance in Sri Lanka's eastern province, and agreements in digital infrastructure, healthcare, trade, facilitation, and regional development. Additionally, PM Modi has raised the issue of Indian fishermen who were caught in the ongoing maritime dispute with Sri Lanka during his talks. PM Modi also met with leaders of the Tamil community in Sri Lanka and reiterated his commitment for the Tamil diaspora. PM Narendra Modi has become the 4th person, meanwhile, to also receive Sri Lanka's highest civilian award, the Mitra Vibhushana Award. While receiving the award, Prime Minister Modi said it's a matter of pride for him. This award marks the 22nd international recognition bestowed on PM Modi by a foreign country. The highest civilian award of the island nation was introduced in 2008 by former President Mahinda Rajapaksa. Only 3 other leaders, apart from PM Modi, have been conferred with this award. Pratik Joshi, researcher, University of Oxford, is joining us live from Delhi. Pratik Joshi, how big a boost will this visit by Prime Minister Narendra Modi give to India-Sri Lanka relations? And also, what can be interpreted at the outlook of Sri Lanka now towards India, given the fact that this ceremonial welcome was accorded to PM Modi at the presidential square in Colombo. Also, the fact that he was conferred upon with Sri Lanka's highest civilian honour, the first Indian leader to be given this.
Thank you so much for inviting me to this discussion. I would love to begin by pointing out 2-3 significant developments, and they point out to this institutionalization of the future ties, and that goes far beyond signing MOUs or starting any projects. The three big factors that we can see in this: one is definitely the Defence Pact. The second is getting the United Arab Emirates as a partner to develop the Trincomalee as the next energy hub. The third most important point, which often is like an undercurrent, but that's something which will define the Prime Minister's outlook towards not only Sri Lanka, while Sri Lanka is a special focus of his attention. The third aspect is Buddhism. So I think Buddhism, energy, especially renewables, defense, and digital partnerships, they collectively institutionalize the relationship into a very powerful bond. And I think this is this cusp where we see both the nations, as I mentioned, institutionalizing their ties, but also there is this moment where the problems or the issues that caused bad blood in the past, both nations are moving and they're building upon the new fundamental building blocks of the future partnership. That's how I see the bilateral relationship evolving.
Jahan Pereira, the Executive Director, National Peace Council, is also live with us now from Colombo, Sri Lanka. Jahan Pereira, let me get in the Sri Lankan perspective on this visit from you. How is this visit being perceived there in Colombo? Also, which are the areas of convergence between India and Sri Lanka that will get a fill-up through this visit and is reflected by the 7 MOUs signed and inked between the two countries as well?
Yeah, it is very clear that the Sri Lankan government has gone all out to honor Prime Minister Modi and show him that he is very special and that he has helped Sri Lanka a great deal. I mean, giving him that award is a sign of that. And also, in addition, the posters that we have seen welcoming and calling him on the streets of Colombo and calling him the pride of India reflects that. I think that we are very happy that Prime Minister Modi is here, and in the context of Sri Lanka's economic difficulties, the fact that we went through an economic collapse 3 years ago, we went bankrupt. India helped us a lot. We are still in difficult situation now. The Americans have made it again difficult for us. So our primary focus, Sri Lanka's primary focus, would be on economic ties, developing economic ties with India, and obtaining the support of India to restart our development and alleviate poverty, the way India has done very remarkably well in the past decades. So I think economics will be the focus for Sri Lanka.
Yes, and you know, Jahan Perera, as you said, you know, the Sri Lankan government has really gone all out during this visit. That is perhaps reflective by that welcome accorded to PM Modi at Independence Square. Also, this highest civilian honor that the Sri Lankan government has given to him. Take us to the significance of that award as well. I believe just 3 other leaders apart from PM Modi have got it so far, and he's the only Indian leader to be conferred this honor.
Yes. I think it was also significant that our president, the Sri Lankan president's speech, welcome speech, and he said that Prime Minister Modi was the first leader to come to Sri Lanka after the new government got elected. I think this, and then he said a second thing. He said that they both come from non-traditional leadership backgrounds. Now, I think this is very special, very much in the present Sri Lankan government's mind, that the election that brought the president to power and his government to power displaced the traditional elites of this country, and brought into office people who are relatively unknown with very little experience. And I think the fact that Prime Minister Modi has come to Sri Lanka, because everyone thought that this new government will not be able to handle things well, that they'll make mistakes, they don't have the experience, they don't have that traditional elite background to do things right internationally in particular. So Prime Minister Modi coming and being so warm to Sri Lanka, and also having invited our president to come and visit India also, I think that matters a lot to that. So this award is, I think, takes on significance in that context.
Yes, it certainly does. Pratik, let me quickly draw you in here. You know, do you also believe that, you know, this outlook by Sri Lanka is reflected through these gestures also, in a way shows them, you know, who their steadfast ally is and who their ally is without strings attached, unlike others like China, who perhaps have a pound of flesh to extract every time they offer any kind of help, particularly financial and economic one, as they have done of late to the, you know, the debt-trapped nation.
So, you know, the Sri Lankan case stands as a clear proof because the Chinese engagement on these terms and the Indian aid and the Indian assistance in helping the Sri Lankan government emerge out of this crisis. These two cases they stand as clear contrasts. And I think it becomes very clear to the observers of foreign policy or geopolitics that how both of these countries have behaved whenever their allies have come in, they've faced a crisis. So I think this should definitely define you know, the Indian approach and differentiate it from the other countries that use other countries' crisis as an opportunities. That's one thing. The second thing is this convergence of views between India and Sri Lanka on India's vision as a net security provider in the region. That while there may be other powers that are economically superior and which may have a bigger pull in the global on the global stage, but in India's neighborhood in the Indo-Pacific region, India has far more credibility as a country which can be reached out in the times of crisis, both security and economic.
Also, Prime Minister Modi has, of course, gone, Jahan Pereira, to the IPKF memorial. I think that again is is symbolic of the historic ties between India and Sri Lanka, the IPKF memorial there. Also, the fact that he's met with several members of the Tamil community and Tamil diaspora, I think that will also give a fillip to people ties between our two countries, isn't it?
Yes, definitely it would. I mean, the fact that he went, IPKF came at a time when Sri Lanka was in great difficulty. But I must also caution you that the memories of that period are very divided. Sri Lanka is very divided on that. The time of the ethnic war, and the role that India played at an earlier period. In the earlier period under Mrs. Gandhi, in particular, India, we believe, supported the Tamil Tiger, the Tamil militant movement. And at that time, India also has constraints because of Tamil Nadu. At that time, when we were fighting that war, it was countries like Pakistan and China that supported Sri Lanka with arms. So that is also there in our consciousness. So I think, it will be difficult for Indians to accept that. But, the Sri Lankans have a more nuanced view of a country like China. China, at about 50 years ago, there was a crisis in Sri Lanka where we didn't have rice, and then there was we exchanged our rubber for Chinese rice. So there is that memory also. Of course, more recently, China has put us into trouble by giving us a lot of big loans, which were used for uneconomic purposes, mainly our fault, our government's fault, because they didn't have to waste the money the way they did, but China let them do that. And we got into this terrible debt trap. And then India stepped in. And India, ever since the war ended in 2009, India has been very supportive. India has been very careful with us. India has been mindful of Sri Lankan perceptions. But I do want Indians to realize, and they must not get hurt, that Sri Lanka will not only look at India for assistance. India will come first, but Sri Lanka will also be looking at other countries. US is our biggest export market, then followed by EU. It's not really India that we because we can't export to India because India produces everything we do. So therefore, we will be also keeping relationships with other parts of the world.
All right, Pratik Joshi and Jahan Pereira, appreciate you both joining us with your perspectives on that big story. Meanwhile, the latest announced Trump tariffs are sowing fears of a trade war and recession. Several countries around the world have threatened to wage a trade war against the US as the tariffs fed expectations for an upcoming global downturn. Meanwhile, China has said that the market has spoken in rejecting US President Donald Trump's tariffs and called on Washington for equal-footed consultation after global markets' dramatic reaction to the trade levies, which drew Chinese retaliation. China's Ministry of Finance has said the additional tariffs would be imposed from April the 10th. Beijing has previously imposed tariffs of 15% on imports of coal and liquefied natural gas from the US in retaliation for Washington's 10% levies on Chinese goods. It also announced stiff export controls on key minerals and businesses, limiting what could be exchanged with the US. The penalties announced by Trump have received extensive backlash, triggering a plunge in the financial markets all around the world, reckoning the end of decades-long era of trade liberalization. Global stock markets plummeted on the 3rd of April 2025 after the sweeping tariffs were announced by the US, instigating similar behavior amongst most equity funds, especially the most temperamental. And joining us now live is Daniel Wagner, CEO of Country Risk Solution. He's live with us from Denver in the United States of America. Daniel Wagner, we've seen global markets, of course, react in a pretty negative manner to the Trump tariffs. Which way do you see trade now headed with the US? And also, how do you view this strong reaction by China?
Let's bear in mind that we're in the middle of a paradigm shift. And paradigm shifts take a while to take effect, right? And so what we're seeing is the beginning of the global reaction to this. This is just the beginning. If Trump doesn't change course, and some people believe that he will under pressure perhaps next week, then there's every reason to believe that the world could head into a global recession. Certainly America would head into a likely severe recession, many economists believe. The likelihood that Trump is going to back down seems to be very limited, however. He has said that he does not intend to change course. He is intent on seeing this through. Now, that remains to be seen. We've all seen how Trump is fairly mercurial in terms of how he changes his position, given a conversation with a world leader or some pressure put on him from some quarter. So that's certainly possible, but I don't think he would have headed down this road if he intended to switch course in just a few days. In terms of the impact on the world, likely to be rather severe, certainly rather severe in America. A lot of constituents in America, even after just a few days, are really upset with Mr. Trump. The question is, will this matter to him at all?
Okay, do you see then any concessions by the US in the days ahead? Or do you believe that this rigid approach is going to continue despite these strong reactions that have come in both from countries and, of course, from the markets?
There seems to be a chance that if there is a market crash in America, which some prognosticators are envisioning for next week, possibly as soon as Monday, although that sounds a little bit extreme, let's see. If that is to be the case, my guess is that he would consider changing course. And we've also seen 4 Republican senators who have banded together in the last few days and basically said that they will oppose not only this action, but other actions that Trump has taken. A couple of those senators have already done so with some regularity. Now there are a total of 4. So that is enough to tip the balance in the Senate. And if other Republicans join the fray, listening to the earful that they're getting around the country whenever they go back home from their constituents who are really upset with them, really upset with Trump, what he's doing, and all the negative impacts this is having, then there is a chance that more Republicans will join from a legislative perspective, and that this could also make a difference.
All right, Daniel Wagner, thank you very much for joining us with your perspective on that big story. On that note, we are going to take a very short break. Thanks to all of you for joining us. For the latest updates and news and updates from around the world, keep watching NewsX World.